Hi everyone, Assalamu alaikum. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. So in today's video, I am going to demonstrate how we can configure and make use of ISE posture feature in our network to impose a security policy. So we'll start with theoretical part and then we'll jump on to practical demonstration. As you can see on the screen, I have made this document and put all the theoretical points, and I will be sharing the link for this document in the video description so you can download and use it for your reference. So let's start. What is Cisco ISE posture? ISE posture is a feature which ensures that endpoints such as laptop, desktop, mobile devices connecting to network comply with organization security policies prior to being allowed access. What does it mean? For example, in your organizations, you have multiple employees which are using Windows machines. Okay. And the minimum security policy you define that all Windows machines should have their Windows firewall enabled. Okay. And if the Windows firewall is enabled, then that particular user or endpoint Windows machine will be allowed full access to the network. And if in case Windows firewall is disabled, then then that endpoint Windows machine will have a restricted access. Or you can say only internet is allowed. Internal resources you will not able to access. So how is it possible to impose this security policy? So ICE using ICE posturing feature, so one endpoint agent or a posture agent is installed on Windows machine. So whenever a user connects its Windows machine to the network either through wireless or wired network, so that agent pop up for username and password. The end user provides its username and password. Once that user is authenticated through ISE, so that agent will start scanning the system. So after scanning it, if the Windows is enabled, in case if Windows is enabled, then agent will send this information to ISE. Then ISE, after getting this information, will mark that endpoint or the endpoint user status as compliant and give it full access to the network. In other case, if that Windows is not enabled or Windows firewall is not enabled, so the agent after scanning and identifying that the firewall is not enabled, it sends this information to ISE and ISE will mark that endpoint machine or endpoint end user status as non-compliant. Then on the basis of the policy, ISE will give that user like a timer, like a time of 5-10 minutes to enable its firewall. If the firewall is not enabled in the given time, then that user status will be remain non-compliant and it will be given a restricted access. Okay. So all this theory which I explained you is mentioned is there in this document. So we have three ICE posture status. One is unknown. Unknown status is when there is no agent installed and there is no scanning information. Uh, there is no scanning information ICE getting from the end machine. The compliant, if the scan result is compliant with the policy, in our case that firewall is enabled, then that endpoint or user is marked as compliant. And if firewall is not enabled, then it is marked as non-compliant. So the flow and the steps of posture procedure are mentioned in the document, so you can check it later. So we'll jump on to configuration on the switch. So here is my switch. Switch configurations are pretty similar to what we did in Dot1x and MAB authentication videos. So similar AAA configuration, radius configuration, and interface configuration. The only difference is this redirection is here, okay, which will allow or which will allow redirect user session to poster provisioning portal. I will paste this ACL here on my switch. Apart from this ACL, we have to check two more points. The one point is IP HTTP service should be enabled on your switch. So it will help to initiate or pop up redirection URL on endpoint machine. And the third thing is you should have one uh, IP interface on your switch similar to the VLAN which is assigned to your end machine when it starts provisioning process. For example, in my case, my PC is will be connected to this interface. So once the provisioning procedure starts, the user will get IP from this VLAN. Okay. And I should have one IP and SVI or IP in the similar VLAN because that redirection is initiated by switch to on your end PC and system. Okay, so if both are not in similar VLAN, then there could be some problems, and you will see some issues while opening the redirection page or the client provisioning page. So that's it on the switch side. So now we'll move on to Cisco ISE configuration. So the ISE posture configuration includes 4 steps, 5 steps. So first step is define posture condition. In our case, we'll be defining a firewall condition. This condition will decide compliant or non-compliant status. So this is the how we can configure. So we'll go to policy elements, policy elements, conditions, and then posture. And here we have multiple predefined different conditions. Okay, so we'll choose firewall and we'll create a new condition. So my condition I could name as lab underscore firewall. The compliance module I will use the latest one 4.x and later. Operating system will be Windows. I will select Windows all. Okay, and vendor I will select Microsoft Corporate. Okay, and which firewall version I want to use, I will say any version of Windows firewall. Okay, and save. So first step is completed. The next step is create the requirement. So in posture requirement, we define operating system, compliance module, and posture type. We can create multiple requirements for different operating system. Like if we have multiple operating system, Windows, Mac, and all in our environment, so we can create multiple requirements. We add the condition here. So the condition we created, we will call it here in the second step while creating a requirement. And then we'll define a remediation action. So it will create our requirement. So how we can configure policy elements, result, posture, and requirement. Policy element, result, and posture, and then requirement. Okay. So I will create a new policy, insert a new requirement. I will name it as lab underscore requirement. Operating system will be Windows all. Okay. Compliance module, I will use the latest one. Agent, I will use agent, agentless, that is a separate thing. And the condition what I created is a defined condition, and then firewall condition, and I will select my condition here. Okay, and then remediation. So in remediation, I will only selecting text only, message text only. So it will pop up on the user machine and will ask to uh, enable your file in order to get network access. So this message will appear on my screen and my user machine. They can enable their firewall if the in case if firewall is not enabled. Done and save. Okay. Now let's jump to third point. Create a posture policy. In this tab, we create a posture policy. Under this policy, we again define the operating system type, compliance module version. In this policy, we add posture requirement, which is created in step 2. So now using these two, step 1 and step 2, will be creating a policy, posture policy here. So we'll go to policy and posture. Here we will create a posture policy. Okay. And I will name it as lab underscore posture underscore policy. So here I can also define the identity groups. So which particular policy. So we can define policy to the particular, bind the policy to a particular user group also. Okay. And then operating system, I will select Windows all. Okay. Compliance module, border X, posture type posture, condition, nothing, and the requirement which I created, lab requirement, and save. Go back and verify it. Okay, my policy, posture policy here. Okay, so my third step is also complete. So till this point, we have created the policy. Now from this point, point 4, we are creating a provisioning policy. Means if a user is coming for the first time, so how he can install or download and install endpoint agent and how we can make use of it. So here we'll create resource used for inspection of endpoint. In this provisioning policy, we define name agent and compliance module. This policy redirects to download and install name agent, the endpoint agent you can say, and compliance module. Here we define policy, profile, configuration of agent. It consists of 5 steps. The first step is upload, download any connect endpoint agent from Cisco website and upload it here. I have already uploaded it. So for this, I have to go to policy, policy elements, policy results, and then client provisioning, and then resources. Okay. So I already have my agent installed. You can see this one. Any connect desktop windows. So I have already uploaded this one here. So how you can do, you can just simply go to add resources or add resources from local device, and then you can select category Cisco provided package, and you can choose it from your downloads. Okay, and upload it here. So this will come here like this, any connect desktop Windows agent. Okay, so next we'll create a poster profile. Here we define name agent, setting, and behavior. It include remediation timer retransmission. So the agent we install, we uploaded in on Cisco ISE will define its profile. Okay, so how we can do it? Same resources portal. So we will create agent poster profile, agent poster profile. We will name it as lab agent profile. Okay, so the important, I will keep it as default. All the settings we can make use of it. So the important thing I will show you remediation timer. Okay, you can define the remediation timer, the timer from the status non-compliant to compliant. So it will wait for this time 4 minutes. So I will make it like 5 minutes. Okay, and rest of the settings, in my example, I will keep it default. Server is asking for some server setting, server name rules. In server name rule, I will start static. Okay, and save. Okay, now third thing is compliance module. So this module will be, you can say, sub part of any connect which we uploaded here. This will be linked to this agent and will define the status of the endpoint if it is compliant or non-compliant. So how we can do? You can same thing, resources, same tab, resources, and then agent resources from Cisco website. So for this to happen, your eyes should be reachable to internet, and your DNS should be resolving cisco.com website, this website which is mentioned here. So you can download the latest module from here. So I have already downloaded it. You can say Cisco secure compliant module. It is already downloaded. So you can download and it will appear. Okay, so next step, fourth one is create agent configuration. So in this agent configuration, what we'll do, we will combine the uh, any connect or endpoint agent we uploaded in step 1 and the compliance module we downloaded in step 3 will combine both and create an agent configuration. So that complete package will be which can be downloaded and installed on endpoint machine. So same resources tab, then agent configuration, agent package, configuration name, we can name it as lab underscore agent underscore config. Okay. Here you select the endpoint agent, any connect or some other secure client, and here you select the compliance module. We are using for ISE posture, not for the VPN. And profile we created in the beginning, it's lab profile, and then the Okay. The last part is create client provisioning policy. So similar to the poster policy where we created in this here. So for this portion of client provisioning, we will create a provisioning policy and select all these things which we have partially created. So I will go to policy, client provisioning. I will create one client provisioning policy. I will name it as lab provisioning underscore policy. Group name will be any operating system will be Windows all. Condition will be default and result will be lab agent configuration. Okay. So the agent we define where we bind our policy to posture policy to an agent and compliance module. So we created one policy agent configuration and then we selected this one in a client provisioning policy and save. Okay. So now till this point we have our posture configuration completed. Now we will configure authorization, authentication and authorization profile. So similar to flow which is used in guest portal. So first the authorization policy will be for redirection. It will be redirecting to client provisioning portal, and the second policy will be for the network access. Okay, so we'll go to policy, policy results, authorization profiles. So first I will create a policy for lab underscore unknown underscore status. Okay, so if user is coming for the first time and there is no scanning and no agent installed, so it will hit this policy and will be redirected to client provisioning portal from where it can start scanning and download agent and compliance module. And this will redirect to the policy provisioning policy which we created. So here I will select my VLAN 97, which is my guest or initial VLAN. In web direction, I will select client provisioning. Here I will define the name of the access list. My access list name is this one. I will paste it here. And posturing portal, I will name it here, by default posturing portal, and in static I will put static IP of my ISE server. Save. Okay, so this is my first policy, lab unknown status. The second policy is when my user, when the agent is installed, but the status is non-compliant, none underscore compliant. Okay, so here what I will do, I will give him another VLAN, which is not my guest VLAN. So I will give it to access to an internal VLAN. Okay, and what I will do, I will create one decal. Okay, similar to this one. I want to deny internal access, will allow only communication with ISE, domain, DSCP, DNS, and internet access. Rest of the internal communication or access to internal resources will be denied. So I will create a decal non-compliant decal. I will paste this here. Now we'll go back to my authorization profile, lab non-compliant, and I will select my decal lab. What's the name? Non-compliant decal. Okay. So what I am doing, I am assigning my internal VLAN to this user, but because it is non-compliant, it is not fully compliant with my security policy, and its firewall is not enabled. That's why I am restricting this user. I'm not providing that particular user with internal resources. Okay, save. So now I will create my last authorization profile, lab underscore compliant. So here I will only give that user my internal VLAN, or you can say trusted VLAN. So, and the last, I will create policy, configure policies, go to policy set and create the authentication and authorization policies. So this is my switch. I will enable this policy set. All the requests coming from this switch will hit this policy set, and inside this policy set will have authentication policy. So my user will be doing .1x. So .1x, it will hit this policy, or I can create a new one like posture lab underscore posture underscore .1x. So the condition would be wired .1x. Okay, or it can be wireless .1x, because user can come from both medias, and it will be authenticated from internal users. Okay, save. Now I will create 3 authorization policies. First one is lab underscore unknown underscore. So my condition would be if a user is wired.1x or wireless.1x and its compliance status is unknown. Just compliance unknown device. Okay. Then what should we do? Lab non-compliant. So redirection policy we have bind to this. So if user is coming for the first time, it will be authenticated, then it will hit this policy because its compliance status is this one, and that policy profile will be bind to it, which will be redirecting the user session to provisioning portal. So there is one mistake. I have to make this as just a minute. I have to rebuild this policy. So it should be or wired.1x or wireless.1x, and it again So what I will do, I will make my main policy as non-compliant device, then file.1x, and it can be wireless 802.1x. Can I remove this and put file.1x use? So now the should be compliant, non-compliant, and it can be a wired or wireless.1x, then it will hit this policy. Okay. Okay. So next policy for non-compliant, lab underscore non-compliant. So user coming from wired or wireless.1x and it is non-compliant. So non-compliant device. Okay. And sorry. And it can be, can say, or it can be wired.1x or wireless.1x and save. In this policy should be no. The mistake compliance no. Okay. The first one will be unknown. This one will be non-compliant, and non-compliant will be lab non-compliant and save. And my final policy for compliant lab underscore compliant. So similar thing, the compliant status should be compliant. There it is. Compliant device. Compliant device. And it could be wired.1x or wireless.1x. And also we can put user authenticated group to differentiate different users with different uh, VLAN or decals. So that's it. Save. So my configurations are completed. So the video length is very big. So I will do a demonstration video. I will record another video for the demonstration of this configuration. So I will upload this in two parts. Part one will be theory and configuration, and the part two will only be demonstration. So thank you for watching.